And we are live. Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here and thank you for watching now over 70 episodes of The Real Raw. And imagine this, The Real Raw was just an idea that came to fruition in just 1 hour. What is The Real Raw? The Real Raw is a sales role-playing or a battle of influence. It serves to showcase how influence is a superpower. You'll see two contestants develop emotional rapport, then aim to get a yes from the role player. 3 judges will weigh in on how well they fared. And winning is about how heart-centered and the level of integrity displayed in the interaction. The idea is for all of us to learn how to interact with others, not just in sales, but in life. In fact, it's a formula created by the master himself, the one and only Sean Callaghy.
Well, thank you, Vivian. That is beautiful, and that was an incredible introduction and brand new. So beautiful job, and I'm really appreciative. And you hit it on the head. It is about being heart-centered. I just got finished, well, not finished, I'm in the middle of watching the Jeff Epstein documentary on Netflix.
Yeah.
And I had the unfortunate experience of having Scott Rothstein, the largest Ponzi schemer in the history of South Florida, attempt to take $8 million from my client after he had taken $1 billion with a B dollars off of other people. And I went there with the former head of white-collar crimes for the FBI and for due diligence. And that former head of white-collar crimes for the FBI gave it a thumbs up. And he was a well-intentioned man, good man. I had a fight on a private jet coming home in 2008. I think it was 2008. Could have been 9. The entire way home with the former head of white-collar crimes for the FBI and my client, because they were saying this seemed great. And so integrity-based influence is not just understanding how to go from hello to yes. It's also understanding how to say no. Because for all of us, we know there's a lot of times we should have said no when we did say yes. And a lot of times we said yes when we should have said no. So Vivian, yes, heart-centered, authenticity, love, anchored in the concept that Oprah said. She held the microphone for 30,000 people because she said, I see you, I hear you, and what you say matters to me. But unfortunately, so did somebody like Jeffrey Epstein. So how do we discern? How do we understand the differential? And that's what we're here to unlock as well. And we've never said that before in Real Raw. We've talked about fun, aspiration, some heart, but let's talk for real. We're here to be influencers, influencing influencers to make the world an even greater place. And that's what's present. And Vivian, thank you for your beautiful introduction. And thank each of you that are here today to be on this incredible journey together, to not just have our money grow, but also our impact grow and our time and scale grow. So Vivian, we have beautiful, incredible people here today, along with wonderful people watching. So please take us in. Who do we have?
This is very exciting. We have Scarlett Lewis, founded the Jessie Lewis Choose Love movement. Hello there. She's wearing orange and her background is blue. It's very colorful. A nonprofit organization after her son was murdered during the Sandy Hook Elementary School tragedy in December of 2012. Scarlett decided to be part of the solution to the issues in society, and that also caused the tragedy. She travels across the United States and internationally to promote the Choose Love Enrichment Program, a next generation social and emotional learning and character development program empowering educators and students to choose love. Choose Love Enrichment Program has been downloaded in all 50 states and in nearly 100 countries. So welcome, Scarlett Lewis.
Miss Scarlett Lewis, thank you for being here. And that hit my heart with an atomic bomb. So thank you for being here and for sharing your journey with us.
You're on mute. We can't hear you, love.
You have to unmute.
The volume is low. Maybe your volume is low. There we go. No.
Scarlett, we can't hear you.
Yeah,
Your volume was okay before.
She's on mute, I think. There's
no.
Mute anymore.
Scarlett, maybe you want to rejoin, and Vivian will come back to Scarlett.
Krista, can you give her a call, and maybe we'll just offline try to support, and we'll introduce our other amazing people and come back to Scarlett. Okay, Krista?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Hello?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, I'm going to cancel out and try.
We got you.
So Vivian, yes, who else?
All
do we
right.
have?
So let's go. We have someone that I saw at the JV Summit, Arjan Erkel, and his story is so amazing. Hi and welcome. In 1970, Arjan Erkel was kidnapped by masked Islamic rebels in Dagestan, Russia, and was held captive for 607 days. It was a nightmare he never expected to live through. But once he was in the middle of it, he learned how to cope with his new circumstances.
Oh, God.
His unique
Arjan.
story about
Okay. I'm sorry, guys.
his unique story about survival, his quest for freedom, and his powerful recovery is so inspiring. For the past 15 years, Arjan has been inspiring audiences through his speaking engagements, workshops, and coaching. Arjan is also a co-founder of Free a Girl, a foundation that is dedicated to freeing young girls from forced prostitution. So welcome, and I hope I've been pronouncing your name right, Arjan.
Yeah, you're pronouncing it very well. Thank you, Vivian. I was kidnapped in 2002, not in 1970. I was born in 1970.
Ah, so there you go.
Otherwise, I will be very old right now.
Yeah. Arjan, how are you? And thank you for
fine, Sean. Thank you very much. How are you?
I'm doing well, and I never knew that part of your story. You know, I've understood your work with Free Girl, but I never understood that, and I can't even begin to fathom what that experience must have been like. How did you make it through?
Yeah, it was a real hard story. I was kidnapped with lots of force, lots of danger, of course, lots of humiliation. But at the end, you have to stand up for yourself. I tried to make the best of it. I got away with all my frustration, with my anger, and I start building up empathy and rapport with the kidnappers so that they saw me as a human being instead of a product. And slowly, together actually, and they start looking after me. And that was the big change I could make in my situation, because alone I couldn't make it on my own, but with the help of the kidnappers, it became better. And the most important thing was that I didn't lose myself, my own identity, because of course they tried to make me a Muslim. They said, it's better if you change your religion, but I didn't, and which actually made me get some respect from them.
Wow.
And then the rent was paid. Yeah.
Wow. Incredible. And thank you for all the work that you're doing with Free a Girl. And I mean, there's massive challenges in the world, and you're up to solving big problems. And we're very grateful that you're here today.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you. So Vivian, please, who else do we have?
Guess we can't complain when our food is not like warm enough or when things are cold, right, John? We can't anymore. Now we have people who have been going through a lot of things today.
Amen to that, Vivian. Amen. Yeah.
Woo! Okay, we have a judge. The first one is Catalina Di Flore. Catalina has 30 years of experience as an international corporate banker and is now an executive life and business strategist. She coaches, mentors, and trains her clients globally, helping them to become well-rounded leaders so they have more impact in their lives and in business. Welcome.
Catalina, thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Great, the pleasure to meet you all and to be with you. Thank you.
Yeah, and where are you coming from today, Catalina?
I'm in Amsterdam, the Netherlands.
Oh, very beautiful.
I'm located there. Yes. Yes.
Awesome. So thank you for being here, and we appreciate you, and we're going to have some fun today. So
yes, we do. Thank you so much.
So Vivian.
Fiore, right? Not Flore. So it's
Flore. Flore.
Oh, it is Flore. Okay.
Yeah, it is Flore.
Okay.
Like a flower.
I don't know what I'm looking at in your name. I thought there was an I there, but that's okay. Okay, Flore City. We have Helen Lazarovich. Did I get your name right? She says yes.
You actually did. Amazingly enough, that was perfect.
Yes.
Amazing.
Helen has been in the finance industry for over 13 years. She's a market risk manager, analyst for Rabobank, Investment Bank, and Bank of America. As a top real estate agent in New Jersey, she finds dream homes for high net worth buyers. So welcome, Helen.
Helen, thank you for being here today.
Thank you, Sean. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, absolute pleasure. And what part of New Jersey you're in?
Central New Jersey, Springfield. If you're familiar at all with it, we're like right smack in the middle.
Yeah, super familiar.
Yeah.
I'm in northern New Jersey right now. So yes.
Small world.
It is. Well, thank you for being here, Helen.
Thank you for having me.
Okay. And last, but certainly not least, Vivian.
A man with a man bun. Gotta love him. Tony Lister. A personal development coach who is now co-creator of the legendary Tribe, as well as the host of the What the Flow podcast. Tony has spent over 10,000 hours deep inside the inner worlds of CEOs, executives, attorneys, athletes, artists, and world changers, helping them accelerate their results while overcoming the self-sabotage patterns that often follows success. So welcome, Tony.
Tony, brother, how are you?
I'm doing amazing. It's such a gift to be on here, Sean. I want to just tell you real quickly, I know we're getting into things, but when I was a participant on the show here, there was one thing you said that continues to really impact my life, and it's that every word that someone uses means something to them. And I was having this conversation with my wife yesterday, and I heard a word that she said in the conversation, and I went deeper into the word, and it created a healing and an understanding in something that I had missed from pain that happened a lot of years ago. And I was able to hear her in this new way that it was really created a profound connection. So thank you for that.
Well, thank you, brother, for that acknowledgement and for taking that work forward. Because a lot of folks hear things and don't implement, and you are truly a master. And that's what mastery is all about, right? Is never stopping growing and implementing. And I appreciate your work in the world very much.
Thank you, Sean.
Thank you, Tony. I'm going to ask for some, check in and see how we're doing with Scarlett in one moment, but I'm going to ask for a little bit of patience and understanding today. I've never done this before, but today during our Real Raw, I'm going to do part of it in transit to the airport. There's an opportunity for a number of charitable foundations, including Operation Underground Railroad, that we're going to be meeting at their offices in Utah tomorrow, and there was no other way to get there. It was a sort of a last minute thing. And I'm going to have to be traveling, so I will make the impact as minimal as possible. But I just want to share that, and thank you for your patience in advance. I'll be having to do that in just a short little bit because there's no other way to do it. So my apologies, because there's no other way to get to Utah on time. So Vivian, do we have Scarlett back?
Yes, we do. And we even have a different environment. I'm loving it.
Scarlett, how are you?
I'm great, and I really appreciate the opportunity to be here with you all on Unblinded. Thank you very much.
Well, I appreciate you, and I was sharing before, I don't know if you could hear me, that this is, sometimes it's difficult to find, there are no words that would appropriately express and acknowledge for somebody's journey and what they've been through, and that feels very applicable to you and your work, Scarlett. So thank you so much for being here.
I appreciate that. I dedicated my life to being part of the solution to end unnecessary suffering and death. And there's so much that we can do to proactively reduce and prevent that. And so it's a wonderful mission, and I love to share it with you all.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And this has been an impactful day here at Unblinded. We had Jacqueline Franchetti this morning, whose daughter was murdered by her father, Jacqueline's soon-to-be ex-husband, during a divorce and custody situation. And Jacqueline just had some extraordinary breakthroughs with the state of New York, and new legislation passed. So today feels like a day of impact with incredible people like yourself, Scarlett, taking horrific circumstances and turning them into a movement and an energy. So again, I acknowledge you for that.
Thank you.
Yeah. So here's what we actually do here. Team, we unlock influence for impact, and we talk about how that really works. And we do it in the course of 1 6-minute conversation. The assessments from the judges, and that conversation is split down the middle. It's 3 minutes in the first half and 3 minutes in the second half. And my passion for influence, just quickly for those that don't know me, was rooted in the fact that I was relatively introverted growing up. I was captain of my college baseball team at Columbia University, but based on actions, not words. But sometimes words are critically important. In fact, yes is what creates and destroys nations, or the yes or the absence of creates and destroys movements that create change, creates and destroys companies, relationships, creates income or not. All those dynamics are at stake in our ability to go from hello to yes to people. And again, for our ability to discern who we should say yes and no to. So all of that's at play in the work we're doing here at Unblinded. And the way we do it, again, is a 6-minute conversation split in half. The first 3 minutes is just about opening the listening, putting something at stake. The second half of our conversation is about where that second 3 minutes is where you're sharing what your identity is or your situation is and moving towards a yes. Because, you know, when we move into sales parlance, we don't close anybody here. We don't pitch people here. We're not hooking people here. What we're doing is we're educating and we're unblinding people for helping them see what they don't see about why they should say yes, heart-centered with integrity. So that said, Scarlett, you're physically in New Jersey today or no?
Oh, no, I'm actually in Connecticut. I'm in Sandy Hook, Connecticut. That's where I live. I've lived for 20
years. Sandy Hook, Connecticut. Got it. And Arjan, you are where today physically?
In Rotterdam, the Netherlands.
My goodness. Okay. So yes, you are definitely from further away. So Arjan is the away team, and I have either a 1 or a 2 under this table. Do you think it's a 1 or a 2?
A 2.
It is a 1. So Scarlett, it's your choice. Would you like to go first in the first round, and then you'll retain choice in the second round, or would you like to go second in the first round, and then the second round you would retain? Arjan would have choice.
I will go second. I hope that's okay with you, Arjan.
Yeah, it's of course ladies first. So
yeah. And so Arjan, we say here, it's all about hello to yes. We suggest it's a yes that matters to you in the world. It could be anything. It could be raising money for your charity. It could be selling your product or service. It could be a book deal. Anything you want. And Vivian, by the way, who's our role player for today?
I was just about to tell you. It's Deb Battersby. She's been a trainer, veteran trainer, master trainer for Tony Robbins. And she has over 25 years in leadership roles. She founded the Success Matrix International and designed the Freedom Point coaching system. Her passion for the past 12 years as an executive coach and business strategist is to help entrepreneurs, business leaders, and their coaches who are driven to accelerate and get to the next level, not because they have to, but because they want to.
Extraordinary. And Deb crushed it on The Real Raw, heart-centered, integrity-based. And Deb, it's an honor to have you here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. So let's drop in. Arjan, who would you like Deb to be? She could be herself. She could be anybody in the world. Who would you like her to be, and what's the scenario?
Yeah, I would like her to be herself, but as a business coach, but also as a person.
Amazing. Okay. And are you just meeting her, or you know each other?
I've never met her before. Of course, I did a little bit of research, but like the first time that we meet. But okay. I know who she is. Yeah.
And are you meeting at an event or over the phone?
At an event.
Awesome. Arjan, you have 3 minutes, sir. Take us in.
Hi, Deb. I just seen you on stage, and I was really flabbergasted. And I'm so proud that you have some time for me after you've been on stage. Thank you so much for that.
My pleasure.
Yeah, and what I really like to know is where your drive is coming from, because you got the audience, you got me, and I was wondering, how did you do that?
Well, you know, it's an interesting thing, because you and I are both interested in influence and how we can influence change in the world. And right now, there are a lot of things going on in our world that are painful everywhere you look. So many people are suffering. And my heart is committed to helping change that. There's so much fear, there's so much hatred, there's so much distrust, and we have to change that for the world. So that's where I'm at.
That's so good. Yeah, like I introduced myself a little bit, I lost my freedom for some time, and now you see lots of people losing their freedom because of COVID and because of the demonstrations. How can you increase the freedom of people? What's your message about that?
Well, you know, it's funny that you asked, because my coaching model is called Freedom Point. And the reason it's called Freedom Point is because in this strategy, what I'm always looking for is the point at which the client is able to change, the point at which the pain is resolved, the pattern is understood, the emotional impact is neutralized, so that freedom really can occur. The other thing that I do know is there is no freedom in hatred. There is no freedom in fear. There is no freedom in judgment of others. We have to free ourselves in order to free others.
45 seconds to go.
And what was the event in your life that you came to the conclusion or your mission that you want to do this as an inspirator for other people?
You know, it's something that has followed me my whole life. I think from as early as like age 9 or 10, I've been inspired historically by the liberators, by the Abraham Lincolns, the Gandhis, the Nelson Mandelas, the Martin Luther Kings, the Susan B. Anthonys. The liberators are the ones who have always stirred my passion and my interest. So freedom has been an underlying theme for me my whole life.
Okay, thank you so much. You have to go on, and I would like to have some more time if you appreciate it as well.
I'd love to know more about where you're at and why this is important to you. So I'd be happy to do that.
Okay, thank you so much. See you later then.
Okay, thank you.
Awesome job. Arjan, how did that feel for you?
Yeah, in the beginning I was a little bit nervous because of the language, of course, and the cultural differences. But at the end, I think it was a normal conversation, like oh, nice.
Beautiful.
I hope that feels the same. So
if you had one word, what would your word be?
I felt his sincere interest.
Awesome. Okay, so let's see what the judges have to share. Maybe judges, like 20 seconds of feedback or so, or 15 to 20 on what worked, 15 to 20 on opportunity for growth. And let's drop in first with Catalina.
I loved your energy of openness. You came up with your curiosity by asking open-ended questions. You came up with an humble way of interacting with Deb by noticing her being an expert and noticing her. So you got into rapport in a very sincere and authentic way. I like the voice qualities because you paced Deb in her rhythm and speed and volume of talking. By being curious, and especially given that English is not your native language. So you start building up on the rapport, you create a connection, and from there you started to build up. Of course, you had 3 minutes, and you were getting there to the pain point. You started to ask questions where was, what was more important, role models to her. Maybe just a little bit to get into the pain would have brought this even higher. But hey, we talk. You just said, Sean, about authenticity, love, fun, and being real. I'm just saying we are judges. We give you an opinion. So focus with your inner wisdom to take in what is really authentic to you, and let the rest go. Well done. Wonderful.
Beautiful. And what would you have a score on a scale of 1 to 10?
I would say an 8.
Beautiful.
For Arjan.
Thank you. Tony, what do you have, sir?
Right. So I didn't think the language barrier was an issue at all in observation. So if that came up in you, that didn't come up in me. I really liked, Arjan, how you came in and you gave a great acknowledgement of her presentation, and that was sort of the scenario. And a really good question into her interests of like what created the passion behind that. It's an excellent access point, especially because coming off stage, people tend to want to share a little bit more of that. So it was a really good conversation continuer. I thought that was excellent. Initially, I wrote in my notes, you could have gone deeper into why she cares so much about freedom, but then you had this follow-up question about freedom. So I thought that was great. And I was curious if you did research on her and that freedom was a word that had a lot of meaning to her, because you very specifically grabbed onto that word.
Yeah,
so then
I did.
Okay, I thought so. Once I saw that, I was like, oh, you've done a background on her and you know that freedom's interesting to her. You got her talking about her interests, which I thought was great. And then you talked about yourself. Your interests were her interests. Mm-hmm. So I thought that in terms of like rapport building, I thought it was good to say, hey, we have some real background here and getting her talking about that. I liked your question of going deeper into the event of her life. And I thought it was interesting that it wasn't an event for her that created her interest in freedom. Overall, I thought it was great. I thought, apologize, I got an airplane flying over me. Might be a little bit loud. As far as what you could have done better, there was a little part of me that because I picked up on that, you knew that freedom was a special word for her. If that was me and someone was using that word to me and that was the name of my program, my radar would go off of testing sincerity. Just in terms of, if I know someone has researched me and I know that they know what I like, it puts me, I have a guardedness about it as a public speaker.
Yeah.
So that came up a little bit in me. That's why I was like, oh, did you know that word was special to her? Because I didn't know what her program was called.
Yeah.
So outside of that, if you can do it in a way where the sincerity is genuine and it's not a tactic, it starts to walk a fine line. And people I just speak for myself as a public speaker, I have a lot of energy in reading people, in trying to determine who I trust.
Yeah.
And I don't trust people that come across too much as a super fan or too much as that they're trying to make me like them too much. And I didn't get that from you, but that's my spidey sense, having been in this for 15 years. I would give you an 8.5. Overall, I thought it was excellent.
Thank you.
Outstanding. And last but certainly not least, what do we have?
So it's hard to be third following Catalina and Tony, because you guys have pretty much nailed it. What I loved about Ariane, the way you spoke, I saw you and I saw you smile, but I didn't have to see you in order to know that you were smiling as you were talking. I could feel the warmth in your words as you were asking questions. And that, to me, you know, I talk a lot on the phone, and you can feel someone just by the expression that they have on their face without seeing them. And you nailed it. You were coming from a good place, and that was felt without the video. I'm going to kind of build on what Tony said, considering the connection, considering your experience that you have had. And I think it's great that you were doing open questions, but at the same time, I feel like even within those 3 minutes, you could have maybe taken 10 seconds to build rapport on your experience and what Deb was saying. There was just, I mean, you guys really had an instant connection. She's talking about freedom, and you've had your freedom taken away from you, and she's fighting for freedom, and you were too. So that could have, 10 seconds, and I know you were trying to get to the kind of the points, but I feel like that 10 seconds could have just possibly, and I don't know, maybe that's what you were planning on doing in the second half, but I feel like that could have just really taken Deb to a, complete, like, instant attraction and relation to you. That's I think that's all. You guys covered it all.
Awesome. And what'd you have for a score?
I was going to say 8.2, so it just seems like I'm between now and really that's the score I had in mind. So it's hard to go third because it feels like you're copycatting.
Well, next round you go first, because we do that, we reverse it. So
okay.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So awesome, Ariane, great job.
Yeah.
So Scarlett, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, and who would you like Deb to be?
I would like Deb to be herself.
Awesome. Okay,
And
drop in. Oh, I'm sorry, Anne, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, I would be me, and I would be trying to introduce myself and perhaps get Deb to help promote my product with her constituency.
Cool. And have you met her before, or this is like, where are you meeting?
I feel like I've met her before through Tony Robbins, but I looked through my emails and we haven't communicated.
Okay, so you're calling her then?
Yes.
Great. Scarlett, please take us in. 3 minutes.
Thank you. Hi, Deb. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you, Scarlett.
Oh, I'm so happy. I feel like we might have met. Tony Robbins did come into Newtown, and he really handpicked the people that he thought were the most resilient to the tragedy. I lost my 6-year-old son at Sandy Hook Elementary School. And so I've been at least one of his events, and he's donated to my son's foundation. But I decided right after that to be part of the solution. And it's really a lot of what you teach your workplace people. We use a lot of the same methodologies, but for elementary school kids, parents, and communities. And it's called social and emotional learning. And it's really teaching kids and individuals how to have healthy relationships, how to manage their emotions, how to not only face but overcome difficulty that they're having in their life, how to make responsible decisions, and more. As you know, these skills and tools have to be taught because you're actually teaching adults that work in the business field and really high-powered CEOs some of these basic skills and tools. And so we're trying to go in and teach as young as possible. We have actually infant toddler program. We actually even have a prenatal program because you can influence a baby's forming brain. So I think that what we have to offer would really kind of be of interest to you, and you might, I would really love for you to give a testimony or actually even help promote us, if you would. What are your thoughts?
Well, to be honest with you, I don't know a lot about your work. I'd love to have some examples of what you do and how you reach out to these different age groups. I think you might be a little bit confused about what I do. You know, I do work with, you know, high-level entrepreneurs and business leaders, but the work that I do with them, I don't teach them. I actually work with them on their own emotional patterns in terms of what, you know, is in the way of what they want to create. Where I might be of most value to you is in the Freedom Point coaching, which is something that I've recently taken into an online platform. The objective there is to equip coaches and therapists and counselors with the tools they need to help anyone who's experienced trauma or suffering to move through those emotional stresses. So there could be some very positive collaboration between us.
Yeah, let me explain. Social and emotional learning actually helps kids have healthy relationships and gives them skills, tools, and attitudes to help them move through difficulty, to have the courage to face it and not be taken down by it. There's actually something called post-traumatic growth that we teach the awareness of, where you actually can grow through difficulty rather than seeing it as a threat, actually see it as a challenge. So we really kind of help kids understand that there's growth mindset, the difference between fixed and growth mindset, and move them along a growth mindset road. We teach them grit, and actually this is social emotional intelligence is really what employers are looking for over IQ, because this determines how productive they're going to be. And it really, you know, getting back to what you do, it really helps, it starts early. You're dealing with issues that that entrepreneurs and CEOs have, helping them move through it and not be taken down by it. This is actually giving those similar, using neuroscience and other things that you use in your programs. This is using that at a much younger age to help develop their little minds and give them courage and confidence and stamina and grit to be able to see challenges as they come up and face them rather than be taken down by them. And we use actually a very powerful formula, and it's being taught in schools throughout America. and in over 95 countries. And it's a very basic concept, which is that we're all united in the want and need to love and be loved. That is what unites us all. And it's a formula for choosing love that we teach. And we use neuroscience, social emotional intelligence, mindfulness, post-traumatic growth, all these positive psychology. And the formula is courage. And basically that is based on my son's courage, who saved 9 of his classmates' lives at 6 years old before losing his own. And that's something that we all have to practice in our own lives. We don't realize it takes courage to be kind to somebody that's not being kind to you, but science tells us that courage is a muscle and it can be practiced. Then we move into gratitude. And of course, we all know the benefits of gratitude, but it takes courage to be grateful when things aren't going our way. And then we move into forgiveness. And our world as it is right now shows us the tremendous need for forgiveness, yet most people don't understand what it is and the scientific benefit for you. And then we move into
30 seconds.
Compassion in action. And that is really having the courage to step outside of our own lives, our own busyness, our own pain and suffering to help others. And this is what we're implementing in schools, actually homes and communities throughout the world. It is a unifying message and one that has really taken off as a movement, because of course we all have to take responsibility for what's going on in our lives and in our worlds to be part of the solution. And that's what I did following the murder of my son, is take responsibility for what happened and dedicate my life to being part of the solution.
Oh my God. Deb, you just have to take a quick phone call in about 10 seconds.
Okay, well, Scarlett, I applaud you for the things you're doing in the world. I'm sure it's making a huge impact, and I hope you have all the support you need moving forward.
Thank you.
Amazing, Scarlett. Deb, if you had one word of how that felt.
Uncomfortable.
Wow. One sentence.
Yeah, well, I want to say, my defense, I wasn't 100% prepared, obviously. So
okay. All I can say is it was uncomfortable. And Scarlett, I think your mission is beautiful, and I think what you're doing is important. I think this conversation was all about you, and you didn't have any interest in what was important to me. And it was awkward. So I apologize, but that's how I feel.
Okay. Well, let's go to the judges. So judges, what do we have?
So we go in the same order, or?
We'll go in reverse.
Helen.
Okay, reverse.
Yeah.
Okay. Scarlett, I got lost in, you're so passionate about it. I just, I forgot where we were and what what you were trying to say. I got lost in in a good way. I got lost in your story. I can't imagine. I have 3 boys. I can't even imagine what that must have been like. I know the story. But I think, you're so passionate, and it shows, and I can feel it. But at the same time, I think, as Deb said, I was, as I was getting lost in listening to what you were saying, I wasn't sure exactly what you were trying to achieve in regards to Deb. Why did you call her? What really was your mission for the call? And how was Deb's what Deb does? How would that have been helpful to your cause? So I think maybe adding a little more structure to, and you said it yourself, just adding a little more structure and providing I guess providing some sort of a flow chart to Deb to explain to her what exactly was the purpose of the conversation.
Well, thank you. And what'd you have for a score?
I'm sorry, it's 7.5.
This is okay, because that's what we're here for. So listen, this is beautiful empathy, and I have massive empathy for Scarlett as well. But also the beauty of coming here is that we're going to create an access point for everybody that comes here to take their already beautiful skill sets and have them rise so their message can be even amplified and heard. So this is going to be incredibly simple to give Scarlett a couple of dynamics right in the moment after the judges go. We're going to give that gift to Scarlett, and it's going to be extraordinary because her message, her heart, her everything is unbelievable. And we're going to talk about the sequencing of how messaging is received. I'm going to drop in on that in a moment. Tony, what'd you have for an assessment, my friend?
Scarlett, what I loved about your presentation is your embodiment. You have such powerful embodiment of this message. It's your being, and it's really powerful, and it's really captivating. And you have this ability to reach people at a level of depth that you get past all of the walls to the deepest core of who they are as a human being because of what you've been through and who you're being. This combination is incredibly powerful, and I don't remember being affected and touched this deeply by someone giving a presentation in such a short amount of time, and I don't know how long. So that was incredible. I liked how you started the conversation with connecting through the Tony Robbins Network, because people that are part of the Tony Robbins Network, they give immediate listening to people who are part of the Tony Robbins Network. That was an excellent segue, excellent lead in. Under normal circumstances, I wouldn't say that you start with your introduction of who you are and your story, but because of what you've been through, it has the ability to instantly cause people to pause and pay attention. And like normally I would want someone to segue in with asking a little bit about their world. So but you have this ability because of your experience in the tragedy and who you're being in the midst of that to be able to get in like that. On the flip side of it, and this is where I hope you take this in a really constructive way, because I love what you're creating, and there's power in what you're creating with a little bit of a tweak. And I've learned this from Sean. So now I'm gonna like being on these and let me say this with empathy, because I was in your shoes on the Real Raw Roleplay for my first time into it, and it's incredibly nerve-wracking. It was a lot more nerve-wracking than I expected. It's way easier to be a judge. Here's my thought. Because you have such a captivating story, no one's going to interrupt you. And they will let you talk longer than they would let other people in other situations where they're presenting something or watching something. You'll get away with being able to talk longer than most people would without being interrupted because of your situation. And that's initially it's a total benefit to your situation because they'll listen. And then it can be, it can go against it because it gives you the ability to talk longer than most social settings would let you without being interrupted. And so what I would have wanted to have seen is you start with you started great, who you were, the Tony Robbins connection, the telling what you're up to. And then I would have liked to have seen you get into Deb's world and find out what's really important to her, and then pick that one piece of your stuff and go, Deb, this one piece matches perfectly with the Freedom Connection coaching that you have. Because the rest of the stuff I got lost in. I got lost in the neuroscience. I loved it when you brought it back around to courage and what courage meant. It really brought it home. But I was completely lost in the middle. So I wanted you to find out, Deb, what's important in your world? And, oh, hey, we have this one thing here. It matches up really perfectly. And you would have had her. Because you'd go,
Awesome.
wow. Yeah.
So Tony, what'd you have for a score, brother?
7.
Beautiful, beautiful feedback on as well. Thank you. And for you guys, just understand, I'm not putting on sunglasses to be cool. With my retinitis pigmentosa, when I'm outside, I need to have the glasses on. So you'll see me taking them on and off just out of pain issues for my eyes. So thank you, Tony. Catalina, what do you have for your feedback and score?
Yes, great and very useful comments from my perspective from Helen and Tony. Just to add, Scarlett, I saw zest. I saw in your presentation, I saw leadership, perseverance. I saw emotions. You came with your heart, with your emotions. Very enthusiastic and very hopeful. So beautiful character strengths that I've seen in your presentation. Deb is a very elegant person to talk to. So that was also in a way very useful. You started beautifully with a rapport, and you started with mind reading. And mind reading is a great tool to use to create rapport. The problem begins when you overuse it. So you started beautifully with saying, yeah, like you, Deb, I'm part of the solution, and my work is like your work. And but then you got deeper and deeper and deeper. And I don't know if you looked at Deb's face and physiology, but her eyes were getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And these are small cues that you can pay attention, sensory acuity, what's happening to her when I'm engaging with her this way. So just pay attention that mind reading overused might go in the other side, okay? Does it make sense what I'm saying? Okay. To me, it felt like a sales pitch at the end, because your enthusiasm, and it's driven by, I think, by your enthusiasm, but it was like a monologue, and I missed the questions to get to understand her model of the world and her pain points. So starting to ask more questions and engage her in a conversation, pay attention to what she says, and yeah, you have a beautiful heart, and yeah,
Beautiful. And so, Catalina, what you have for a score?
I would say 7.
So thank you, judges. Beautiful feedback, Tony, Helen, Catalina. Scarlett, can I support with a quick access point to make this all, like, to demonstrate how this could all easily flow? Would that be helpful?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. So, Deb, can we drop in together and you role play,
Yes.
and I'll be Scarlett?
Yes. Absolutely.
Cool. Awesome. Okay, so so Deb, thank you so much for taking just a moment to meet with me. I know you said you had like 5 minutes or so. I probably only need 3. Would that be okay?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I've seen you on stage a bunch, and your mission is powerful. Can I just ask this? Why are you still doing this? You've impacted so many lives. You've enriched the world in beautiful ways. Like, why are you doing this?
Because there's a lot of work yet to be done.
Extraordinary. And what is that work, if I may ask?
To heal the misunderstandings between human beings that's creating so much of the turmoil in our world, to find a solution to the fear and the hate so that people can be free to be everything that they're capable of being.
Extraordinary. And one more question, and I'm so grateful, and I know we only have about a minute and a half to go, but what is it that drives you to want to solve for this hate and to make the world better? Like, what drives that in your heart?
The reality that the strategies that we're using are only restricting and in so many ways crippling so many people in the world, keeping them from being what they're capable of being, keeping them from adding to the collective in ways that make a powerful difference. Being so caught up in fear and hatred and injustice, it seems to be taking us in the wrong direction, and as a global society. And I think it's time we do something about it. We cannot let this continue.
Yeah. And how are you? I think I have an idea of how you're doing it, but how are you going about that, doing something about it? Like, what are you? I see you on stage, and it's a beautiful. Like, when I don't see you on stage, what is it here? What else are you doing in the world? So I'm not quite sure what your mission in business actually is.
What I realize is that, we talk a lot about emotional intelligence. And what I realize is that all emotion is intelligent. And the fact that we don't understand human emotion, and we don't know how to use it for the direction that's intended, that we get caught up in repressing and suppressing and denying and disassociating and judging and withdrawing in so many ways that create havoc in the world. People are either drugged because they're anxious, they're hiding out because they're fearful, they're playing small because they don't have the confidence to step up in the world, all of that is directly tied to emotional insight. And to me, real freedom comes from knowing the truth, that you have a flawless emotional system that's intended to guide you. That if you could understand that, if you could help people understand that, we could eliminate a shitload of drugs in the world. We could help young people understand their own emotional perspective and understand the guidance intended behind that. We can help business leaders make better decisions because they won't be acting out of fear and lack and loss and scarcity. So we need to change the emotional dynamic in the world. And we really need to understand the real intention behind the emotions we experience and what we're supposed to do with them. I've spent 20 years studying this, and I know how to change emotional patterns. I want people to understand how that works so they can use it in service to any community for any challenge that we're facing. It is the most profound power that we have.
Yeah. So, and Deb, I know we only have about a few more seconds to go, and I want to let you go. I know you got to take a call. I just want to acknowledge you. You know, I've seen you on stage. I see you helping people around this environment. What I had no idea about is the depth of your brilliance and genius, and your desire to recognize people's flawless emotional system, as an example, to disrupt the utilization of drugs. I had no idea how deeply you were thinking about these things and what you're up to in the world. So when you come back from that call, I could share a little bit of myself, but I just wanted to acknowledge you.
Thank you.
Yeah. So how did that feel for you, Deb?
Well, it was powerful because, again, it's the same thing that Scarlett touched in me, and it is the need to change the emotional dynamic, to help people understand that the solutions are actually emotional, but so are the challenges.
Yeah. So Scarlett,
Yeah.
Thank you, Deb. So as we sequence it, as you notice in the first half of the conversation, so remember it's 2 3-minute parts. And this is how we suggest the framework for human communication is to really take at least the first half, if not 2/3 of any communication we have with another human being. If it's 4 minutes, then it's, 2/3 of 4 minutes, so 2.5 minutes or so. If it's a half an hour, then it's 20 minutes. If it's an hour, it's 40 minutes. Where we're just listening and we're seeing what's at stake for somebody and we're opening up. And the second half of that, what it might sound like, is now you dropping in and saying, that beautiful acknowledgement, say if I could share a little bit myself, you're sharing, Deb, you may or may not know my story, but from my heart, here's what happened to me, or here's what the world means to me, my mission is, and here's why, and my story.
Yeah.
And now Deb has been heard. She's been appropriately acknowledged and validated. She has the authentic Oprah Winfrey dynamic of I see you, I hear you, what you say matters to me, Deb. Mm-hmm. And she experiences it through not only my questions, but through my acknowledgement of her uniqueness. And then when you share into that, now we have this powerful emotional, energetic dynamic. How does that feel for you, Scarlett?
It was amazing. And you're exactly right. I mean, I wasn't exactly understanding and I apologize what this was all about, but I've learned so much. And when we get the funding, we're going to hire you, Sean. Because that was beautiful. I know, I'm just kidding. That was amazing. And thank you for that, because I've already learned a lot.
Yeah. So you don't need to hire me. You are with your mission and what you've been through. Access to our programs are yours, as my gift to you, and thank you for being here. So thank you so much for that, Scarlett. And brilliant. And it's just those micro distinctions. So I know we're running a little bit long today. Thank you for everybody's patience and commitment. So we have round 2, and this round, we'll try to stay a little bit more time efficient, but I think these are important issues that are present here and incredible people. So thank you for that. So in round 2, Ariane, you have a choice. Would you like to go first or second?
I would like to go second now.
Okay. So Scarlett, if I may make a suggestion,
Please.
yeah, I would use these 3 minutes and ask a few questions to maybe spend 2 minutes, and we'll give you like a, hey, it's, we have 1 more minute and a minute yet you need to take a phone call, Deb. Maybe use those 2 minutes to practice a little bit of the questioning and connecting a little bit more deeply with Deb, and then very efficiently share your mission in the world and, succinctly what happened, and then maybe ask Deb for something. And that something might be for a longer meeting. Say, Deb, I'd love to take 15 to 30 minutes and have a longer conversation. Would it be worth your while? Maybe that's your ask at the end. You don't have to do that, but that's like, my recommended framework. Does that make sense?
It does.
Yeah. All right. So Deb, are you ready?
Yes.
All right, Scarlett, take us in.
Thank you, Sean. Deb, I really appreciate the time that you have already given me and answering the questions that I have asked of you. I have so much deep respect for your work and you're trying to solve the issues of so much suffering. And I completely agree with you that it really does reside in our emotions and maybe lack of emotional intelligence. How did you come upon this work and your choice of clients?
Well, the interesting thing is because I think like so many of us, I've been into personal development for a really long time. And the question I asked myself for a number of years is, what's the difference between condition changed and true transformation? And how does that transformation occur? So I went in search of a structure to intentionally create transformation, because oftentimes we've all had transformative experience, but oftentimes they seem random. It could be a word that someone says, it could be a movie you watch, it could be a book you read, it could be an experience you have, and something is transformed. So I wanted to figure out what was it that actually created and could predict transformation. So that was the beginning. And the reason I chose entrepreneurs as my...
Yeah, you have a phone call in about a minute?
Okay. And the reason I chose entrepreneurs is because I believe they have the capacity to influence more human beings on the planet than anyone else. Entrepreneurs will solve most of our problems. The politicians won't do it. The religious leaders won't do it. Everybody's got their own agenda. The entrepreneurs are the ones that I have faith in.
I totally agree with you in that, by the way. And do you find that your clients come to you and they have suffered a lot in their life, and that's why they're seeking this transformation?
Some have suffered, but we've all had pain, and most of our pain drives us. Believe me, anybody who's a super achiever has a massive fear of failure, and that there's something attached to that, or a massive fear of scarcity or lack. Our fear and our pain drive us, and if we can learn how to use that to drive us in a positive direction rather than a hurtful, harmful, adversarial one, then that's what I want to help people understand. Because I believe that all emotion comes to serve. And if you know how to communicate with it and direct it, it will always serve the highest good.
I agree with you. And do you believe that if we could teach this to our children at a very young age, that it might reduce and prevent a lot of the suffering that we have in our lives?
Yes, it would give us a lot of insight on how to teach our children too, because most of their fears come from their parents or their role models and their influencers. And because oftentimes we project judgment rather than encouragement, even to the ones we love.
Scarlett, if you could drop in now, right? Because we're running short. Just drop in right now on, hey, Deb, is it okay if I share a little bit about myself? And just give her 20 seconds on who you are, and then your ask for a more extended meeting. Just like And I know that's, not easy, but just drop in for 20 seconds. Who are you and your mission, right? And then your ask. Just give it a shot.
Hey, Deb, just really quickly, I have dedicated my life to doing something similar that you do for entrepreneurs, but I want to do this for kids. And I have a program as well that I've developed for children, for parents, and for communities that can actually teach how to manage, how to identify, label, manage, and express emotions, and also to face pain and be transformed by it and move through it so that it doesn't stay with them their whole lives. I think you'd be really interested to hear about the program, and it might help you in some way. Is there, I know you need to get off and you have another call, but is there a time that we could reconnect? Maybe I could send you a little bit more information about my program. I'll do more research on yours, and maybe there's a time that we could connect to see how best my abilities and programming can serve what you're doing.
I'd love that. I think we have a very similar mission.
Awesome. So great job, Scarlett. If I could just drop in really quickly, beautiful job. An access point perhaps to be, listen, thank you, the acknowledgement for Deb. And if I could share a little about myself as you did, and say, listen, Deb, I really appreciate you. And, I have been through extraordinary trauma, as many people have, but mine was incredibly unique. And then share a bit about your story for a moment, and then saying, so my mission is to really create healing and to create transformation for young people. And that's my program. And I think there's great alignment between us. And I know we're out of time, but if there would be a time that you'd spend 15 more minutes to see if you agree that we're aligned, would that work for you? So just super efficiency, I think, in that moment. And there's plenty more to share, but I love your energy. I love where you're coming from and your mission. And it's critically important. So that's why thank you all for, giving me the time and the latitude to support Scarlett a bit, because I want to really advance that mission. So thank you, Scarlett. Beautiful job.
Thank you, Sean, so much.
Awesome. So Ariane, are you ready, sir?
Yeah, more or less. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's try.
But so just the scenario. So she came back to me, or
yeah, you're just continuing the prior call. So all Deb had to do was take a quick call. Now she's ringing it back, going, "Oh, Ariane, thank you so much for your patience. I had to grab that call really quickly, and let's please continue. I have about 3 more minutes."
Okay. Cool.
All right. So drop in.
Hi, Deb. Yeah, thanks for really coming back to me, because lots of people, they say, hey, I have a phone call and you never see them again. Why I came up to you is I have also a quest for freedom. Sometimes people call me a freedom fighter. Do you mind if I tell something about myself?
I'd love to hear something about you.
Yeah, I'm from the Netherlands, and I'm quite well known there because I was kidnapped for 607 days, and the whole country lived with me and my parents, and they hoped for me to come back. And when I came back, they were so helping me to get my normal life back again. And then I was, of course, so happy that they helped me and they helped my parents. And then I heard a story about kids being kidnapped and taken into custody and working in places where we don't want to go, and they are sexually exploited. And I started an organization to get them out, and we freed already more than 4,500 people. And my mission is unlock freedom and unlock potential. So I have two messages for normal people who are maybe blocked in their life or taken hostage in their life to unlock their freedom and unlock their potential. And that's what I'm hearing you as well. And then the second mission is to free girls from sexual exploitation. And I was thinking to make this creation bigger, if there's space in your time, in your mind to talk about that in the future. So
I love what you're doing, Ariane. I know that I've been also supporting Operation Ground Rail, so I know a little bit about the kind of work you're doing, and I think it's so necessary and essential, and I'd love to chat about how we might do something together that would help your mission. I'd love to do
Deb, you have about 45 seconds.
Yeah, that would be great. I don't know how to score the goal right now, but shall we just take the agenda and make an appointment? Yeah. Thank you so much, and I will come over in autumn when COVID-19 is finished, and then I'll be happy to meet you.
So Ariane,
that would be great.
Thank you. And Ariane, if I beautiful job. Deb, if you had one word for that encounter, how it felt, what would it be?
There's an inspiration that comes, and by the way, I felt this with Scarlett too, an inspiration that comes from telling some of the more emotional part of the story. And so I felt inspired, by both of them in sharing it in that
Awesome. And so if I could, Ariane, and just in service of everybody, if you could give us this briefly, how being kidnapped for hundreds of days, how did you handle your self-mastery? Like what, you explained that you create empathy and those things with the kidnappers at some level, but how did you keep yourself functioning?
Yeah, I think to be able to control your emotions and to use the emotions that are useful. And of course, sometimes you're frustrated, sometimes you're angry, sometimes you're sad, and allow them to be there. But then at a certain moment, you should say, okay, it's enough. They don't help me. They didn't help me to improve my world. It doesn't help me to become like a macho man in their eyes, because I needed to be a bit more macho. So controlling your emotions, and then really, also your energy, your power, your pride, your honor. I think that was also really important there. And I always had a good life before, so I had a very good basis to move on. So I didn't want to disappoint my parents because they were waiting for me. So how could I commit suicide in bad moments, for example? Or I didn't want to lose from those guys. So it's a whole combination of being the master of your own emotions and don't giving up, being your own
right. And how you change the meaning. So thank you for being an inspiration and hero, brother. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you again for being here. And meeting all you coaches and Scarlett. It's also amazing what you're doing. Yeah.
So judges, we've run a bit long, so if we could keep it to like 30 seconds of feedback each. Let's start this round with, Tony hasn't gone first yet, so let's go Tony. Then 30 seconds on Scarlett, 30 seconds on Ariane, please. Tony, what do you got, sir?
Okay, Scarlett, first of all, it's super intense to be on the show, so I would encourage you to rewatch this and listen to the feedback from that here. I'm going to encourage you. I like how you got into a world with questions this time. I wanted you to dive into how emotional intelligence can really help the work that you're doing, because it's a big piece for Deborah. You asked a couple of questions, and I'm going to encourage you to, instead of saying, do you believe this question, to have open-ended, curious questions. Because I believe that in asking open-ended, curious questions, you're going to see some really precise connection points between what you're doing and what she's doing, and then you just match those two up. And it's less of the packaged offer, less of the kind of the pitch of what you do. And then I wanted you to ask more about what the specifics were in Deb's work on how those things line up. Other than that, it's amazing what you're doing. That was beautiful. Ariane, you also have a story that is so captivating and so inspiring, so like attention grabbing, that you have that as a tool that can be used. And I feel like you missed a piece on what Deb shared with you. You asked a great question of why she got into this, an event, because yours was an event. For her, it was people. And I wanted you to do this follow-up question on the people and say, well, okay, who are the people that inspire you? And then I wanted you to do a deeper follow-up question and go, why specifically did that person inspire you? Because then you can connect you and your experience into the why of why a human inspires her, and you become her inspiration. Like you have this capacity to create this connection point with her where she suddenly gets behind your mission because you're actually embodying someone who has done the thing that were the people that inspired her for all her life lead to that. And so I felt like that connected piece got missed by not going a little bit deeper into, oh, it's people that inspire you. And why do those people inspire you? Oh, by the way, I lived that.
Yeah.
And then I would say, instead of trying to sell her on what you asked of working on your stuff, I would almost lean into wanting to know more curiously how the emotional intelligence piece can lead to the freedom, because it's what you're both doing. There was a closer alignment that I think could have happened. I'm going to give you an 8 on that one.
Thank you, Tony.
Yeah.
And Scarlett score?
Scarlett, I gave her an 8 as well that time.
Awesome. Helen, what do you have for these finals?
So Scarlett's 180-degree turn from the first round. Thank you. I mean, it's incredible to see how quickly you pivoted and just, used the feedback from us and Sean, and just, you changed things up so quickly. It's to me, it was great to see how you showed interest in Deb's mission and try to pivot as to how you would be able to relate that back to your mission. I'm sure if you've had more time, you would have gone deeper on that. There was, room to go deeper on that and build that relationship. But nonetheless, it was wonderful to see how quickly you have just, taken everything that we said into consideration. So an 8.5 for me, especially considering the improvements. Arjan, great way to break the ice. You kind of started off with a joke, like no one really gets back to you after they say they have a phone call. That was awesome. You kind of, after all, we're all human, and while we're trying to, ask something of someone, it's a great way to relate to someone. And what I loved, that you asked for permission to tell your story. And when you do that, to me, like, I don't know, I really love the fact that you asked, may I mention my story? And that was great. And, I know that Deb was all ears, and so was I. And I'd love to have heard, so much more. So it's you could see Deb smiling, I was smiling, because of the triumph that I felt you had conquered towards the end of of when you were finally when you finally found your freedom. So most definitely, to me, it was a 9, just because I thought you were so easygoing, and I would love to have gotten on the phone with you, and I could see that Deb as well. So thank you.
Thank you for that, Helen. I forgot to ask this to Tony, and I'll come back to you, Helen. Tony, how was your experience as a judge, brother? And how was today for you?
I liked being a judge way better than being a participant. I found I listened completely different as a judge than as a participant or an observer, because I've been all 3 on the show. Like, I've observed the show, I've been in all the seats. It was it forced me to listen really closely to how they were interacting in a new way. When I was in the hot seat, it was just like, what do I say? Okay, just like grabbing for something. And it's a completely different listening as a judge to like go, oh, you missed that one. Oh, you missed that one. So it was great, though. It's a whole different type of pressure.
Awesome. Well, thank you, brother. And Helen, how about yourself? How was your experience?
I found myself being less of a judge and more like a cheerleader. I was rooting for you guys, like internally. It was just, I didn't expect to feel that. I felt like I came here with a mission, but at the end, I ended up wanting to learn more about what you guys were doing. And I really like the fact that you guys have taken into account our feedback. I was like, yes, like it was so great. So thank you.
Thank you for that, Helen. That's what this is about, right? So many things are at stake and at play, and the co-creation, the acceleration, the breakthroughs, the connection, and thank you for capturing that, Helen. Thank you. And Catalina, what do you have for feedback for these fine folks?
Yes, I'll start with Scarlett. I saw transformation. You incorporated lots of the feedback that you discern what was good for you. It's your kindness and love that comes across through each and every pore of your being. So what I noticed, and it was great, you listened. And when you listen, your body was different. Your eyes went a bit closer. You tilted your head. You went forward. So these are small things, more distinctions that create a deeper level of unconscious rapport with somebody. So you start influencing, but it came, of course, in a very authentic way, because this is who you are. You are very elegant in my way. I've started to notice you ask open questions. So curiosity came from here. So which helped also Deb to open up, and she was smiling many times, probably you noticed. So you came up humble. And here's the thing, here you, I noticed the shift, and you need to take care here because you became very humble. So you went to the other extreme. So it's for you, it's finding that sweet spot of being humble and proud and coming out with the things that you are for. So beautiful. And for Arjan, goed gedaan, Arjan. Ik ben heel trots op jou. So can we tell him in Dutch, goed gedaan, which means well done? Can we say all that? Yes. Goed gedaan, Arjan. Okay. So great. I love the, you know, humor is always, it's just open, not always, but it's an opening. Great. I love that. I loved your humbleness in telling your story, and it was very inspirational. I saw the brain and I saw the heart together. So it was a beautiful integration from my perspective. I like what Tony said about, you know, going deeper into this, and in the same time, you open actually the door for a future conversation. So you didn't ask for the moon, but you went into the racket. So, and you already had your next appointment. So you had a series of steps that got you moving and created momentum, which is beautiful from my perspective. One thing, if I might say, there were many times when you use the word you when you talk about yourself. So like you say, it's a language pattern, but it's like own it. So you say, yeah, you're, for instance, you're angry, or you're controlling or your emotions, but you talk about yourself, and it's more powerful when you own it. So yes, I talk about, you know, I was angry, I was sad, they did what they did, because I know I was in front of the TV, you know, cheering for you and hoping that you'd be okay, but own it. When you talk about yourself, don't use you, use I. Okay. And beautiful, both of them. So Scarlett, I would go 8.1999, and then Arjan, I would go 9.3, just to make it fun. But I'm very impressed with you, and it was very inspiring for me to witness you. Thank you.
All right. And how was your experience today, Catalina?
Oh, I love it. And I love Deb. You know, I'm looking at Deb. Deb has such an elegance of being. And, you know, she can be like such a sweet, looks very sweet, and, you know, give the feedback like it goes exactly, you know, in the bullet's eye. So it was beautiful to meet Arjan and Scarlett, and to learn from you and from way of presenting, and the other Tony and Helen, great insights as colleagues on this panel. And you are really, you rock it. You know, I haven't had the pleasure, Shan, to talk to you, but you go to the point, and you go with such a heart and sweetness and power, and it's very sexy and very, very strong in the same time. I love it, and I love the experience. So thank you, Deb, for calling during my sailing on experience on Saturday, inviting me here. Thank you.
I told her,
very grateful.
I twisted her arm and told her she would love it. So
yeah, thank you so much. I'm very grateful for this opportunity.
Catalina, thank you. And Deb, thank you so much. And Deb, what is it that you see here? So thank you for your heart before we wrap it up with Scarlett and Arjan, since you shared that.
I loved the privilege of being on this particular panel with such incredible human beings like Arjan and Scarlett. The work you're doing in the world is so necessary, And there are not a lot of people who have the courage or the fortitude to take on those kind of challenges. So thank you for being who you are, and bless you on your mission. And let's see how many people we can get to help you.
Thank you, Deb, for everything, and amazing. So yeah, as we take it home, Scarlett, thank you for being here. Thank you for taking the time, for being open and vulnerable and sharing. And how was your experience?
Well, it was tough in the beginning, and but I appreciate honesty, and I always want to improve. I want to do better. I want to serve every day. I say, I pray, and I say, make me an instrument of your peace. So this is going to help me. I really appreciate everybody's thoughtful responses, and I do listen, and it did help immediately. And so I'm really just grateful for all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Scarlett. And Ariane, how about yourself, sir?
Yeah, I also enjoyed it very much, but also yeah, very grateful that I could be here. And what I learned, maybe sometimes I'm too humble about the story, because of course in the Netherlands everyone knows, so I can tell the story, but maybe in America or another country they are bored after some time. But Tony actually says, hey, you can be stronger on that, and you can be more connecting with people by using the right words and also the right experiences of other people. And actually that's what Catalina also said, and you too. So it's been a nice learning experience for sure.
Yeah, thank you, Ariane. And we always talk about congruent uniqueness. And brother, you have a heroic story, and it's congruently unique, so you can so easily open the listening of people to share your mission. So Ariane, thank you for being here today. Scarlett as well. Deb, fantastic job. Vivian for launching us, and Tony, Helen, and Catalina, thank you for your incredible feedback. It's been a beautiful day on The Real Raw, and we are here unlocking integrity-based, heart-centered influence as a superpower. Have a beautiful day. Thanks.
Thank you.